Page 20, Jericho, also known as the Battle of Jericho, or whatever you want to call it. Now we're in the key of A minor. You think C major, no sharp, remember there's a relative minor to it too. A minor. So make sure you can do the scale on A minor, one octave up and down. You should also be doing the scale on C major, one octave. I got videos on them. Go look at them. There. So take it one hand at a time. Make sure we get this fingering and the rhythm. Well, the rhythm can be tricky, so let's look at this. At the beginning, you're crossing over the thumb for one note. You're not moving, you just come. You ought to be able to do that. So it's 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and. 1, second measure. 1 and 2 and. And that's important because the left hand's doing something else. So you gotta have this 1 and 2 and 3 and that's tied. 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Last measure, first line. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now, if it'll help, if you're still confused, then take out the ties there in that last measure and play all those notes. 1 and 2 and 3. So, and when you get the idea of that, then put the tie back in. You just hold on to the note. 1 and 2 and 3. Now, let's go on. The last measure there, the second line, is you reach up here. It's an octave up to the A, and once you're there, you can collapse. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Finger, rest. But no real problem with the rhythm here, I hope. Last line, the coda, your fifth finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and you're going to hold that down for 5 counts while the left hand goes crazy, and then just reach up if you can here. You can, if you want, move, but I suggest you get in the habit of, if you can, feel these notes. 2, you can use 3 also, if it'll help you. You don't have to use 2. You can do that. I'm just trying to get you to feel your way around the keyboard, so you can do this without looking at the piano, or looking at the keyboard. You can look at the piano, it's nice, but don't look at the keyboard unless you have to, that's what I'm saying. Don't be dependent on having to see what your hands are doing is really what it's about. Left hand's just broken chords. See that? That's a chord? Well, yeah, it's an A minor chord. We're just not using the middle note. We don't have to use all the notes in a chord. Second line, third measure. You have a couple rests. It's really just an octave. Just reach down. Here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and then thumb is here, cross over, 1 and 2. Yeah, we've been okay. When you go to the second ending, again you got to rest just here. And during the rest, come back up for the third line. Last line, the coda, you're down here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And it's the same stuff we've had before, a slightly different rhythm. So it's third measure, the last line there. You got to get the thumb from here to here. If you can do that, work that out. And then the last 2 notes are written here, but it has an 8VA under it. Remember the 8VA, if it's under it, you go down. So it's here, so you come down here. So the last 2 measures, you're here. Just lift up and come down. That's fine. Put the hands together slowly. See that? It comes between these quarter notes. The quarter notes are just your steady beat. Let's go down to the second line. In the second measure, you're here. repeat back. However, let's go on now. Again, this is second measure, the second line, but now I'm going to take the second ending. Get the idea? Now the coda at the bottom, you're here. 1, 2, 3. You're going to connect these, but not these. To come down here, but you're reaching up here. Again, it's nice not to have to move both hands if you can help it. So on the right hand, if you can at least reach up the third finger, then you're not really moving, you're just stretching out. But the left hand, you got to move. See? Well, you can get that, then let's go put in the articulation. Well, they don't give you a lot. You just pretty much connect everything. After you get to know it, you can alter the articulation a little bit. Since they don't tell you anything, it's pretty much wide open. You do what you want. Play them staccato if you want. Generally on a syncopated note, which is a note when you're playing it offbeat or something, you can accent it. Just naturally accent it. It just happens. But that's interpretation. You don't have to do that all the time. You do it one way one time and another way another time and experiment and see what you think. Since you're repeating the first couple lines or so, you don't want to play them both the same, I hope. So change something. You can change dynamics. It starts out moderately loud. That's the right hand. Keep the left hand in the background. Crescendo and come down as I feel it. You experiment with it after you get to know it, and how do you feel it? That's interpretation. At the end of the second line, you're loud. Now another fingering you can use here in the right hand for the third line and all these repeated notes is I can do a 3, 2, 3 and then a 1, 3. So I'm using different fingers every time so 3, 2, 3, 1, 3. I'm using all three of these fingers to do these. To me, that's easier. You don't get as tight, as much tension as using the same finger. That's a wrist action, by the way. If I use different fingers, of course, double notes, you got to do the ba ba ba. It's up to you on the fingering. I'm just giving you some ideas. Here. Let's go to the third line. So forth. Dynamics, put in the dynamics, and it applies to the melody. Keep the left hand in the background. And the coda at the end, you're loud. With accents, you're very loud. And both hands are accented, but keep the left hand in the background. As I'm playing this, I want to hear this throughout the whole thing. And at the end, both hands can be the same. Because that song really ended on the A. That's it, you're done. This last little bit is just a tag. They're stuck on the end, they're just chords, so both hands can be the same. I mean, generally speaking, the coda is supposed to be a tag on the end of a piece, but some pieces are not done that way. The coda is a very important part of it. It's not extra. It's actually part of the piece. And if you look at this, that is part of the piece. That's not extra. The piece ends in the coda on the third measure on the A. That's the end of the piece on this one. Now roadmap wise, okay, goody. You got first and second endings on the first or the second line, so you do those. You know what those were. Then you have a DC, all sign, then coda. Oh, goody. The DC means go back to the beginning. Just go to the beginning. All sign, the circle with the crosshairs in it, that's the coda sign. And you see that in the second line at the end of the second measure. You see it above the staff. So you go back to the beginning and play to that. And then instead of playing the third measure, the second line, you jump and do the coda immediately. So the second line to the coda is that. So fourth, you go down and do the coda, and that's how it works. As far as the speed goes, depends on the mood you're in. I've heard this played slowly. I've heard it played happy and fast. And anywhere in between. Now there's a note at the bottom that says we can swing this, and generally when this song is done, it is swung. That is the counting. You swing the counting. Instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and, it's 1 and 2 and 3, and that's the counting. There's no notation for this. You just feel it. 1, 1 and 2 and 3. Well, that slows you down, because when you those short notes, when you get going faster, they're too short. No, that's way out of context. Slow it down and swing it. Now again, it's part of interpretation. On accent notes, you can separate them slightly if you want. In the coda, but you don't have to. Or you can connect them. That's interpretation. Try it both ways. One time, you experiment. Try different things out on these. Don't just play at one thing. Okay, I got the notes, let's go on. Get to know the piece and experiment with different ways of playing it and see what you think. I'd like to play it with you very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. Not going to do any dynamics, but I will swing the eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah, we can do that. So I'll give us 4 counts. Now let's try it together very slowly. 1 and 2 and ready and go. And 1.